Hey, it's Matt and Sheila at Carallel. Hope you're doing well. So, we did an event recently online for dementia caregivers. We had an overwhelming response to the event, over 500 people, and tons of questions. So many questions, we couldn't keep up with them all. And there were some great ones that we couldn't get to. So, wanted to make this quick video to answer some of them for you. So, Sheila, you ready? We're going to do a little lightning round Q&A for dementia caregivers.
I'm ready.
You ready? All right. Okay. So the first question. My partner, a former nurse practitioner and teacher 20 years ago, has delusions that she is still teaching. Most days she stands at the door wanting me to drive her to her job. She has no specifics about this perceived job, but she's adamant that she wants me to drive her there. I'm at a loss to know how to respond. So, Sheila, how would you respond in a situation like that?
Well, I think the first thing you need to do is acknowledge where that might be coming from. Acknowledge her emotions without reinforcing this idea that she has to go to work. So focus on the fact if she was a nurse, wow, it sounds like your work is really important to you. You were such a dedicated teacher. That sounds just like you. So you see how we're talking about her role without focusing on her getting to work. So that's the first thing that I would do to respond. Another idea is to create a log and keep track of the times of days that she does this or the moods or different triggers that might bring this kind of behavior up, because it might help you to prevent that from happening, sort of steer away from the front door at that time of day. And then I guess just really keep a routine. Keep a standard routine, a daily schedule. It's going to make her feel more comfortable and kind of get into a routine that she gets used to with you versus I'm going to work. This is the time I go to work.
So what you're hitting on there, Sheila, is and correct me if I'm wrong, or tell me if I'm not gathering this the right way, but acknowledging that while her reality is not real to you,
Mhm.
acknowledging that reality is real to her by acknowledging her emotions,
Yeah.
right? And leaning into that, and then doing what you can to sort of keep focused on validating those emotions instead of what she's asking for in that moment, which is for you to actually drive her to work. Am
Yeah.
I How's that sound?
It's perfect. It's perfect. Her work is evidently really important to her. So capitalize on that. Pay attention to that part of it. That's perfect.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. All right. So, question number two in our lightning round here. Our 87-year-old mom is living alone in a different state. We've been trying to get her to move for years. She is stubborn and thinks she's okay, but she isn't paying bills, showering, etc. She refuses to move. She's been in the house for 50 years. How would you approach getting her to move? It's a long 2-day drive to our house. Once we can get her to our house, we'll get her into a memory care facility. What say you, Sheila, to this
Well,
loaded question?
I think what we tend to try to do is to use logic. Mom, it doesn't make sense for you. You're here all alone and you can't do this on your own. And we really don't want to do that. We want to speak to her emotions. We want to stay away from trying to reason with her because it's going to turn into an argument. Focus on reassurance, agreeing with her. And if you want to talk about coming to stay with you, don't frame it that way. Frame it like a short term visit. Come and spend some time with us this summer. We could really use your help with the kids. Turn it into something that's going to make her feel like she's not moving out of her house and in with you. It's too
Yeah.
much.
I love the idea of reframing there that you're alluding to. So there's two things in this question to me. One is what we were just touching on, which is the broader sort of elephant in the room topic, which is getting her to move closer to family,
Yeah.
and getting her into a more supportive environment, which it sounds like she needs. That's the big piece. But then there's the smaller piece that's also important, right? Like helping her pay attention to her personal hygiene and paying bills, right? These are activities of daily living. So give me like a quick thought on, while that conversation about making the move, making that transition is happening, what could the question asker be doing to help solve the bill paying and the hygiene issue?
It's just gentle nudging. It is, "Hey mom, what if we go and work on this?" Or "I wonder if you could help me do this." You're turning You're turning it around instead of instructing her like, "You're not taking a shower. You need to take a shower." It's more like, "Hey, let's go check out this great new I've got this new soap. Smell it. Doesn't it smell great?" Whatever it is, to take her into the area without making it seem like a chore or that you're directing her to do something.
I love it. All right, great. We are sticking to our lightning round ethos here. We're going to keep moving. Question number 3. How do you realize as the caregiver, I'm a daughter, but I'm also a caregiver. How do I realize that it is time for mom to go into an assisted living facility? Or even furthermore, to a nursing home. She's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's. She does not realize how she's progressed.
Yeah. Boy, it's hard. This is such a hard one. I'd say the number one thing is safety. Just if you could just put safety in the front of your mind. So if she's had any falls or near falls, if she's left the stove on, if she's gotten lost somewhere or can't manage her medications, these are all really indicators that there's something not safe about her being there. And then also your safety. Are you exposing yourself to falls because you're trying to lift her? Are you eating well and sleeping well? And so if you're not doing that, then your safety's in danger. So I really feel like safety is probably the biggest indicator that you could use some more assistance.
Yeah, yeah. And I so reading the tea leaves of what you're saying there, I think is really also important. And like the reframing as we've been talking about
Yeah.
just makes such a difference. And if we're saying you, uh, you can see pretty easily how someone could take that. I know how I would take that, right? It could be
Yeah.
easy, even though when you're saying it, caregiver, you're not attacking your mom. You're coming from a place of love and care, obviously. But if it you is the word, if we're pointing at them and saying, hey, you got to move, we need to get you moved, you're not doing this, that, the other thing, like you can see how they'd get defensive or could get defensive and feel maybe even attacked, right? Whereas if we're a subtle shift but using I statements, something we talk a lot about,
Mhm.
Sheila, as we're trying to convey our concern about the situation, could also make a really really big difference. And one other thing I'd say is, in terms of when the caregiver asks or says that her mom doesn't realize how she's progressed and doesn't feel like she needs help, that's common. There's something called anosognosia that is about exactly that, right? And lots and lots and lots of people living with dementia and other conditions, by the way, have anosognosia where they're just not capable. They don't have the self-awareness to know what's going on with their own health and wellness, right? So I just
Yeah.
offer that last piece to, as we talk often with dementia caregivers, like people, we need to try and understand what's happening with the brain so
Mhm.
that we can, better inform how we're approaching these incredibly difficult situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say one more thing about this is that a lot of times when people are asking about this, how do I know if I'm ready to do this? It's about the caregiver's sense of guilt. And at some point, you realize that a higher level care is the most loving option. It can take some time to get there, but it's true, and you just have to trust that.
Wise words, Sheila. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on. Let's see the next question. I think this is number 4. Hi, my mom is in an assisted living facility on the highest level of care. She's non-mobile. I set up appointments and put on their calendar. I tell staff when I get there, she's in the bedroom, not ready for the appointment, and we're 20 minutes behind schedule. It happens every time. I try coming early, but it never works. This is very frustrating. What can I do? Another
Well,
heavy question.
yeah, yeah, and this is really common. People are short-staffed. There's the communication is not as great as it can be. I know one thing that has worked for me with my mom when she was in assisted living is making friends with the front desk
Mhm.
staff, requesting from the head nurse or whoever's in charge that a standing reminder go in her chart that on this date, this is the day we do something, whatever that is. You can ask for a dedicated runner or a dedicated aide. Sometimes they will allow that, someone who will help prepare mom to get dressed. And then I would definitely call the nurse's station like an hour and a half before the appointment, not the day before, but right when you're ready to get in the car or go. "Hey, I'm just reminding you that I'm gonna be there at 9:15. Can you confirm that someone's gotten mom ready?" It sort of shifts the relationship with you and the staff, and I think it opens the doors to better communication and gets things done the way they should be.
I love the way you say make friends with the front desk.
Mhm.
I did the same when my mom was in assisted living and also in memory care. Um, and I would even extend that, make friends with the front desk, make friends with everyone you can in the building,
It's true.
basically, right? But sort of an extension of that, or in my head, I tried to find, this was advice given to me, but I tried to find my person, right? My person on the inside who what would could be my go-to person for things like this.
Yep.
And, it's not a magic wand to make this easy because it's going to happen. I wish that weren't the case, but to your point, Sheila, these things do happen. But if we can find a person on the inside, they can help minimize the frequency of this, right? It gives you sort of a direct line. And I love your idea, Sheila. Love your idea so much about just making it a habit. Like the question asker is already getting there early. She's clearly on the ball, right? But
Yeah.
one other thing she could try is just placing that call like you suggest, an hour and a half, an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, in
Mhm.
the morning that day in advance before you're spinning your wheels and getting over there.
Yeah, and it's logic. It really makes sense that you're frustrated. It's a frustrating situation.
I co-sign on that for sure. Okay, let's move on. A lightning round here. Okay, this one is a tough one. How do you respond when they suddenly speak gibberish and you have no idea what they're saying?
Yeah, this is the time where body language really matters. Your body language matters, and it also helps you if you learn their body language. So, facial expressions, how they're using their hands. Are they saying a certain thing every time? So you want to slow down, make some gentle eye contact, validate how they're feeling. I can tell this is important to you. You're trying to say something. That sounds like it really matters. Let's go have some tea while we figure this out. You're letting them know that you're hearing. I wouldn't try to correct them or try to get force words out of them, and I also wouldn't pretend to understand. That can be really frustrating for someone. So watch for patterns and signs that they might be feeling something and not knowing how to communicate it. So are they hungry? Are they thirsty? Are they tired? Are they feeling some pain? So you'll start to notice these patterns, and they might say the same things or sound the same way when they're hungry or when they're tired.
Or have the same body language, right? Like I love the way you tie what you're hearing verbally to what we're seeing
Yeah.
from
What's
our,
behind it?
what they're communicating
Mm.
with the rest of their body. I love that. And again, it's, all of these questions are just, we're doing this because they're real world, everyday sort of questions and scenarios that, dementia caregivers are forced to navigate. And there's no easy answer, but the little things that we're talking about here in response to this tough question about not understanding what they're saying, they really do make a difference. They're not easy to do. It's not easy to, this question resonates with me so deeply because I lived through it, but and it's not easy. I've been there. Like, what are you saying, mom? How I don't understand. What do you need? What do you want? Right? It's so easy to go there
Yeah.
because we have a million things going on and it's frustrating, but slowing down, as you say, really really helps as a first step, and then pairing what we're hearing with what we're seeing, really, not overnight, not in a second, but it really can be a game changer.
Yeah, and you could write those things down. Once again, jot down what happened when she started talking this way. Where was she? And let the doctor know when you go next time. This is what always happens when we go outside, or this is what always happens at this time of day.
Yeah. Okay, good stuff. Next question. My husband's in late stage Alzheimer's disease and has been nonverbal for several years. I think I've taken his ability to make decisions because I bathe him, choose his clothing, dress him, feed him when he won't feed himself. I make him hold on to his walker after raising his lift chair. I definitely get so frustrated with him because he is so strong and he grabs my arms.
Mm. Yeah. Well, I think the first thing you want to do is wonder why he might be grabbing. So you think, is he is he confused about what's happening with his body being moved? Is he all of a sudden very sensitive to touch, and is he being startled by you? This is a possibility too, that he's really unable to process the sequence of actions as fast as you're doing them. So it's making him maybe say, "Stop, give me some time, let's slow down." Or, I mean, he might be just trying to connect with you by touch. Now, it may not seem that way, but there's a communication happening here, and it's about paying attention to what might be causing the grabbing. And I guess what you can do is reassure,
Mhm.
"Hey, honey, I'm going to help you up right now. I'm going to move your arm slowly. I've got you." So you're telling him what you're going to do before you do it. You're slowing down using gentle touch, then taking a pause, making sure he's with you and then move on. So it takes some practice. And one more thing for the grabbing, sometimes there's just like a fidgeting that people have a sense where they have to use their hands. And you
Mhm.
might give him a towel, something to wring or something to hold or a fidget object, and that might just distract him and let him use his hands in a different way.
Mhm. So everything you say makes sense, but like so many other parts of dementia caregiving, it's not black and white. We're forever in the gray area, right? And
Yeah.
in a situation like this, when I see the question, because he's so strong and he grabs my arms, at what point do we think about safety issues?
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
absolutely right. I
like,
mean, you could ask yourself, is it time for more help? That's a really good question to ask. Is it time that I need to get some help in here or talk about other options? Because once again, it comes down to safety, his safety and yours. So, yeah, definitely. And this is something that the frustration and it sounds like it's an all day thing, and she's exhausted, right? So also find ways to step away and soothe yourself with whatever that is, whether it's nature or music or prayer or whatever it is that calms you. Really important. That's cool.
okay, so next question. How to deal with constant feeling and saying they hurt. One day her neck, and then another day my hands and toes from neuropathy. Then, when taken to the doctor, she says nothing but looks at me with a blank face, but never communicates to the doctor what is hurting.
Yeah.
How can you tell the difference between true feelings of pain versus wanting attention?
hmm Well, first of all, I would assume the pain is real. You start with that. Assume that she's in pain. And remember that emotional distress can be expressed as physical pain. So she may be feeling physical pain or she might be feeling emotional pain, and she doesn't know how to describe it. So this is really common. They're trying to tell you something, but the wrong words are coming out. So she might be feeling scared. And in a way to say that, she's saying, "My neck hurts." She might be feeling anxious or lonely. And the words just aren't connecting with what she's trying to communicate. So I would start with that. And I would make sure that you write these things down. I keep saying this, but document what you're seeing. What triggers these complaints of pain? What words is she using? What time of day is it? Where is she when she says it? What body parts is she mentioning? Because all of these might be clues as to what's really going on underneath.
Mhm. I could not love that point about documenting anymore. And my heart goes out to all of the question askers, including this one, because I face this a lot, and you're in this never ending sort of cycle of trying to solve a riddle. Almost is kind of how I relate to it. And you know, I love the fact that you start with it's not looking for attention. It's pain. It is distress of some sort, whether it's physical pain or emotional distress, as you say. But the documenting, again, really, really, really helps. And I mean, you didn't say this, but you did by way of giving all those examples, but be as specific as you can in what you're documenting.
Mhm.
Body parts, as you said, Sheila, time of day, where you are, the date, right? So you can see sort of a chronology of how often this is happening. It doesn't have to be fancy. It can be scribbled in a notebook, but as long as you have it to
Yeah.
refer to. And I guess one other thing I wanted to say on this piece, with the question askers referring to the doctor being in the doctor's office, and the person living with dementia doesn't say anything and just kind of looks at the caregiver. So there's a line to be walked here, right? In terms of how we sort of sidecar our loved one out in the wild, out in public, right? And we want to we're doing our best to keep their sense of dignity and their agency sort of front and center all the time, but and trying to leave them space to communicate, but understanding that they may have challenges communicating and articulating what's really happening. So what would you say about that sort of balancing act on the communication side?
I think you always err on the side of them being scared or anxious or some kind of emotional thing going on, and speak to that. Just get a little bit more gentle. Know that this has to be, sometimes it's an embarrassing thing, or that, can you imagine how scary it would be to sometimes be where you think you are in your mind and other times not? So it's always about compassion. I'm so sorry your fingers are hurting. Maybe I could hold your hand. Do you want some lotion? It's really about keeping them calm and feeling safe and feeling secure and that you're caring about them.
Okay. Thank you, Sheila. All right, moving on here in our lightning round. Shorter question, but an important question. My mother talks about sex a lot. How can we handle these conversations? She really misses my dad. They were married for 54 years and he's passed. So there's a lot to unpack in this simple question, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a recurring theme, but we want to get to what is underneath the behavior or the conversation. So stay calm and as matter of fact as you can. Wow, you really miss the closeness that you and dad had, huh? I understand that, you know. And there's a way to kind of redirect, but don't dismiss the issue. Wow, you guys had such a strong bond. Now let's look at some photos from your wedding. So really it's connecting to the emotional bond that her mom had with her dad, which it's articulating it as intimacy, and create some you could create some emotional alternatives like, hey, would you like a hand massage, like I said, or soft blankets or hugs? You might be looking for a connection, a physical connection. Also speaking to her dad or her, the woman's husband in emotional terms. Wow, like, he always loved your cooking, mom. You were the best cook. He always talked about that. So we're trying to normalize things, and it can be embarrassing, especially if there are other people around, but you wanna normalize it there too. It's like, mom really misses my dad, and this is how it comes out for her.
You just touched, Sheila, on I think one of the hard parts of this. I mean, there's a lot of hard parts
Yeah.
with handling questions like this, but you know, it's almost as hard as sort of actually responding to what you're hearing from the person you're caring for, is for me anyway, was like the oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened, or she just said that.
Right,
What are these people thinking?
right.
Like what are, like, the embarrassment. I hate to use the word embarrassment with,
Sure.
in connection with my mother, but that's how I felt in those moments, and it was
Right.
mortifying sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't have a good answer for that. I just wanted to share that part because you touched on it at the end of your response. It's like,
Yeah, so
how do we normalize that as
yeah, I
a
guess if you think if something like that comes out, if you could immediately change it in your head to "I miss your father." Like that, and that would change the way that you respond, right? So think of it that
love that. I love that.
dementia's removing her filters, but not her need for a connection.
Mhm.
So it's really about just changing it in your head. What she says, you're hearing something different.
Mhm. I love that. That's another we talk when we do our sessions, we talk a lot about mantras, but that's one I did not have in my bag of tricks when I was caregiving, and I
Yeah,
wish I did, because I could see how, it was sort of, I did something similar when I was like helping mom with personal care, for instance. I would like tell my thing I would do I would I had all these things I would tell myself as we were you
Yeah,
know, helping her use the restroom or changing her undergarments or whatever it was, right? To sort of take like almost like take myself out of the situation
sure.
mentally. Um, okay. But that's a loaded question. Thank you for the question to the asker.
Yes.
So when I have to take my husband somewhere in the car, he constantly asks where we're going and also finds problems with my driving. It's very difficult for me to drive and I don't know how to handle it. Well, I would just like to give this question asker a big virtual hug because man, I can relate to this one too. But what are your thoughts on this, Sheila?
Well, I guess to address the criticism about driving, once again, reframe it. Is he confused? Is he fearful or something about something or frustrated? I don't, it's not intentional rudeness. I mean, that's kind of where you have to put your head. It's not intentional. There's something else going on. And his criticism is a side effect of how he's feeling. So that's what I'd say about that. The repeating, where are we going? So common and so frustrating again and again. But try to keep short answers, repetitive, but we're going to the doctor, everything's going to be fine, or we're just running an errand, nothing to worry about. You could redirect. You could say, oh my gosh, the trees are so beautiful this time of year, or let's count the number of red cars that we pass. Put
Right.
some music on, anything to kind of make it like a normal car ride and make it feel like a routine, a thing that we're doing. There's no big event, and just try to stay as calm as you can.
Hmm. I love those ideas. And in my case, so I when I would be driving my mom, she would either in the car, she would be doing one of three things. One, asking me where we were going. Two, complaining that I was going too fast or not fast enough in certain cases. And number three, she would be reading signs. If we were on the highway, she was reading the road signs out
Right.
loud, or she'd reading like the signs to the strip mall, and we'd go by a strip mall, and she'd read every store, Hobby Lobby, Chick-fil-A, Market Basket. Like she would just so constantly. So what I wound up doing at a certain point, because I was firmly in the camp of the question asker, like at my wit's end one point, and someone said to me, well, and I was explaining this, that my mom does one of these three things every time we're in the car. And someone said to me, well, if that's happening and you feel yourself getting frustrated about her complaining about your driving or asking where you're going, why don't you join in the reading of the signs with her? So
I love that.
at a certain point, we just would, if she started to complain about my driving or anything like that, I would just start reading the signs, and she would join in, and there we'd be driving down the road, both reading every sign that we saw.
And that's perfect that you're meeting her where she is.
Yeah.
You're redirecting and you're not getting frustrated. It's sort of funny at a certain point. I love that. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. No, it worked out. Thank heavens for the person who recommended I do it. All right, so that brings us to the end of our lightning round. So, number one, hopefully you found this little Q&A helpful. Number two, we recognize this is a lightning round. We can't go into the full detail that a lot of these questions and challenges sort of require, but we do so every day on our support line at Carallel, and we have hundreds of resources about these topics and more in the Carallel app. So just make sure to click on the library on the left side of your screen and search for whatever it is that you're looking for. We are definitely here when you need us. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon. Thanks,
Take care.
Sheila. Bye-bye.
Bye.